What's up, guys? Welcome to my YouTube channel. Just kidding, I don't actually do that. But I was working on a new quad, a new drone build, and through conversations with some of y'all, I thought you might want to see it. I've already got a little bit of the ways through doing the frame here. I've got two cameras. I've got this one and then this one. I've never really filmed this kind of stuff before, but thought it would be worth a shot. So I'm going to just do it and see how it goes, and maybe just fast forward through it and send it, maybe not send it at all or whatever. Just, I don't know. But, so this is pretty small. This is pretty small here, much smaller than what I'm used to working on. These are the kind of things that normally I would build. These are two of my other builds. This is one of the first ones ever. I don't really know which camera to show it to. I think I'm going to do this one. This is the first one ever. There was like a real build. It wasn't just sort of a proof of concept and stuff. It's pretty good, but it's old. The tech is very different. They use different type of stuff, or they had, rather I should say, different type of stuff back then. Still definitely valid, still flies great. Just a little bit more on the complicated side to make. This is more on the newer side of the build. Things are a lot more streamlined nowadays. You do have to put the frames together on these bigger ones, most of them. They come with like arms, and then like bottom plates and top plates and all this stuff, and then, you know, sometimes they even come with printed parts. I printed some of these. It came with some of them. It only came with the camera mount. I printed the other ones. Yeah, but so we'll kind of get in here. Like I said, I apologize if I'm looking around. I don't know what I'm doing. It seems like I don't know what I'm doing because I really don't know what I'm doing, but as far as the cameras go. But I thought it might be cool. So here we go. So got the motors on the frame already. These come like I don't know, not pre-built, but as a solid piece usually because they're so small. This would be considered like a 2.5. I'm going to move this camera some, because realistically I'm going to be working sort of right in front of me instead of like out here. So this is good. Maybe we'll even come this way a little bit more. You might see off the table, but that's really where I'm going to be working. Okay, so this came with plugs. Some of the smaller boards come with plugs. They're okay. The deal with that is they're not always the most secure, and sometimes they will jiggle loose while you're flying or during a crash, or they might vibrate. I personally don't like them as much. I'm sure lots of people use them, and they're just fine, but I view it as a failure point, so I like to get rid of it. I also already put the standoffs on here. That's what this is. For the frame, which I was already building on too. Like I said, I was working on it and then thought, you know what, I'll film some. But it's got a little nano camera in there, super small little nano cam. This is the receiver. I got that pre-tin wired and shrunk wrap, and then fed the antenna through these wires here. Realistically, on Crossfire, which is like a lower frequency, long range transmitter, you'd want them to be in a T like this. The antenna, that's what this stuff is, the antenna. This is kind of mangled just because I've crashed it a bunch, but for optimum reception you want to be in a T, but this little thing's not going to probably fly that long or that far away from me, so this looks cool, a little kind of buggy, and I think we'll just leave it like this. Or do it like that. Especially, and this frame came with it. This is like a pre-printed part, and they had the pre-printed pieces like that. It has like these little ears here, where you could, I guess, run it through. I don't know. This is fine. But I'm going to take the mounts of that off, mainly because they're just going to get in my way as I'm trying to work. Sitting in my little workbench here. I'm just going to leave that running because I can kind of handle that. So I've got my phone here, and I'm kind of using it to see what the cameras are looking at. Because I just don't really, like I said, have this down. Also probably going to repeat myself a lot. And I fully understand that this is not, you know, you might not care about this at all, and that's totally cool. If you don't want to watch it, it's fine. I'm going to build it anyways, but I thought you might like to share. Is this better to show the thing on? That's pretty good, but it's got like a back, this crazy backdrop. This is my garage. Obviously you've been able to see it the whole time, but I can just now see it. Very messy. We are kind of doing Christmas still, so. But I'm sitting in my workbench here. Just kind of my space, got all my stuff on a pegboard and a couple other things, you know, whatever. Okay, now watch me never be able to get this back the way it was. Okay, that looks good enough. So I'm going to go ahead and take these pieces off of here because they're going to get in the way of my iron for sure when I go to solder this stuff together. Another thing about the connectors, a lot of people like to use the connectors because like they don't have to solder, which I mean that works too. Like I said, they're totally fine, but you have to solder at some point on this anyways. There's at least the hardware I usually buy. There's no way to just like fully connect. You know, there's not just plug in, play kind of thing. So you're gonna have to solder anyways. Might as well solder all of it. Personally, I think it's quicker too. A lot of times, if you just use those connectors, you've got to like route the extra wire around places and bend it creative ways, which is fine, but it adds weight, and you know, maybe weight's not too big a deal, but on one like this, the props are so small, like, which means they have such low surface area that they're really not going to get very good efficiency anyways. So even just a gram or two more can have a pretty big percentage impact on your flight time. Okay. Jabber, jabber. Okay, so this is a little combo stack, which is awesome because a lot of these little baby boys have little combo stacks. So you have your flight controller, which is this here, your flight controller, and you have your ESC. This is a 4-in-1 ESC, so all these pads on the side go to your motors. This is your main power pad, and then I was just talking about plug and play. When these little ones come in packs, they usually have a little connector that goes between them, which is awesome. The other drones that I was talking about did not have that, like the other ones that I built, and so that makes it so easy. The pads are so tiny on this. Like normally a motor pad is significantly larger. I'm not going to try and show you that on my pre-built, and I don't think I have any other hardware laying around here, like a standard size pad. I guess that'll do pretty good. So you can sort of see here, like this is a standard size pad-ish, and those tiny things are that. And this isn't even like a power pad. This is it's like a signal pad for the VTX, which is the video transmitter. So let's go ahead and get this in here and on here. Actually, I lied. First thing I'm going to do is tin the pads I'm going to use. Tinning, I don't know if you're... Those of you who do any work like this, any solder work, tinning's like a vital part of it for most people. It basically just means pre-applying solder to the points you are going to be attaching wires. You only got two hands. Even with a helping hand, sometimes it can be tough to solder. If you tin both the wire and the pad, then you can just touch it and reliquefy, and then be good to go. Makes it a lot easier, and you'll see it here. I don't know if this... I'm going to switch back to this top camera. I should probably just do it and stop trying to figure all this out. But anyways, it's like a solder sucker fan. It's just something I put together. There was a STL on Thingiverse already for the casing, and just put it in there. Pretty sweet. Talk about that. some other time. Just kind of keep solder out of my face. This is leaded solder. I like using that better. So breathing the fumes is not really good for you, I think. But we're gonna get it going. So these just need very, very little. These little ones are actually like more of a challenge than the bigger ones because they are so very fiddly. Oh, that's so small. You guys, I'm sure you can't even see that at all. Oh well, I'll try to zoom in on it. But this side is tinned here. This side is tinned, and then the other side is not. You can see how it's got the silver solder in there. Let me put my iron down. This is a TS 100 favorite soldering iron. Don't even really know what brand it is, but it's awesome. Does this help? I'm gonna do the cool makeup thing where I put my hand. Doesn't really help. Sort of does. That's tinned. That's not. Just basically getting solder in there so that make your job easier down the road. Something you might see me putting my hand on the fan helps to just get, you know, like a support point. Build a little bone bridge there, kind of support your hand and what you're doing. It's real easy to just get kind of twitchy, and then if you get a little too much solder on there, it'll bridge the gap, causing a short. And on these tiny little pads, it is difficult to see whether there's a short or not. Of course, I have a multimeter over here to check that on. But even if there is one, once you cause one, these little pads can sometimes make it difficult to get rid of it. And that removing solder is, I mean, not impossible. Of course, there's solder suckers and wicks and things for it, but it's not the most easy thing in the world. So this is done. That's what, 3, 6, 9, 12, 14 solder points wrapped up. That would count this ESC as completed. It is warm. I put a lot of heat into it in a very short amount of time. It's fine. They generate lots of heat anyways. You just want to make sure that you're not burning things, because you can like burn pads out or cause them to let go of the board, pads being what you're soldering to. So I'm just cooling it down on the other side of this fan. Fan's got like a little charcoal mesh thing built in. Should probably replace it, but I super glued the thing shut, so probably just make another one. Alright, good enough. So this is pretty much done. I don't know the specifics. These do come labeled. These ESCs do come labeled, or assuming this is a flight controller, as far as what pad does what. But they're so small on these, I have a hard time seeing. Most time it's just best to check the manual. Most time they don't come with one, just because these are like just random Chinese stuff. But usually post it online. You're looking for the pinout is what it's called, the nomenclature. It'll just show you what pins do what. Cool, but I'm not going to do that right now. And what I'm going to do is mount this ESC to the frame. In this particular instance, I've got this is a 16 by 16 mounting pattern, in that these holes are 16 by 16. That's pretty obvious, I guess. Probably don't need an explanation for that. But 30 by 30 is standard for like a 5, 6, 7 inch quad. You're going to hear me say quad a lot instead of drone. I'm in this instance referring to the same thing. It's just that, you know, drones can be anything from like delta wings, you know, anything that flies autonomously, like an unmanned aerial vehicle is kind of what this is. But quads is just a little more specific, but you know, just thought to lay it out there so I'm not being confusing. So the game plan with this is to take these little donuts. I got these little rubber donuts to use as spacers so that the boards aren't sitting directly on the frame. The frames are actual carbon fiber, and carbon fiber is conductive, so it will cause a short if you let them touch. I didn't know that at first, and burnt a board, a power distribution board, a PDB. They're not really used anymore because the tech's come a long way in a very short amount of time since I started, but made the whole thing not work, so that was no fun. Gotta learn the hard way. Alright, so I got these donuts out. I'm gonna put them down on here. Little spacers. This is also called soft mounting, in that it provides sort of isolation from the noise of the motors, the vibration of the motors. That physical vibration can put electrical noise into the system and make it be bad. So it'll make your gyro not like read right, and it'll make your video feed kind of nasty. Just all in all, not really a good way to handle it. So the way this frame is set up, this is the front part, this direction. I'm still filming, I guess. My camera froze. Oh no, I'm just gonna keep going. So yeah, this is the front out this way. This is the back. The ESC, it doesn't truly matter, I don't guess, because you can reprogram all of it. So like each motor has 3 wires that you have to connect so that it can spin and all that, power, negative, and signal, and whatever. And you can change that in the GUI. It's called Betaflight, it's what I use, or Butterflight, it's another one that I use, but there's a bunch of them out there, and you can change the motor direction and all that kind of stuff, so and motor assignment even if you need to. So if you get it wrong, it's no big deal, or you can just take it off, put it back on. Also fine. Cool, so we're just going to go with it like this, because I'm not exactly sure. Sometimes the flight controllers have like a little arrow on them to show you which direction is front. Again, the ones that are so small like this, they're so packed with like capacitors and resistors and all this stuff that there's not really room for writing. But yeah, we'll figure it out. Maybe it's under this quality control sticker. No, it is. So this way is front on the flight controller. That matters more really than the ESC. You can also fix it in the GUI. You can fix most things in that software. But it does matter in that it's easier to not have to do that, for sure. So it's got a little arrow right there. Probably can't see it, but it's sort of like a CPU on a computer. They got like a dot or some sort of triangle or whatever that indicates the direction, the orientation of the item. And that lets the gyro know, like, is the quad pitching forward, backwards, left, and right. So if you get it sideways, forward is now all of a sudden right, you know. Okay, so this came with a hookup. Let's see about how long it is. Is it long enough to go? I bet it is. So I'm going to wager. I'm also going to try not to go into so much detail about all of it, because I'm not, you know, the goal of this isn't really to show you or to teach you how to build it. It's just to teach you, or not teach you, just let you watch me build one and listen to me talk. I don't know, it seems popular on the internet, so I thought you might enjoy it. If you don't, my bad. Cool, so I'm going to assume that the wiring, the harness that came with this, super happy it came with one, that the harness that came with this is intended to operate in this manner. Let me show both cameras just in case. Or this manner, in that it goes under so it doesn't stick out the side. You might think it's not big a deal, but it can get chopped by the props, or it can get stuck on a leaf or a twig or something and just wreck your whole day. So with that being the case, I'm going to turn this around. It does not seem like the way it should go, with the battery leads coming out the back. But actually, you know what I'm going to do? I'm not going to do it like that, and I'm just going to try and look it up so that I don't waste my time. Where did I get this? I got this at Race Day Quads. They're one of my favorite American side providers of the hardware. I used to use Get FPV a lot. I don't particularly like them. I've gotten a lot of bad, just not working stuff from them, which is really hard in this environment because you're always like, did I mess it up? Did I do it wrong? Or is it broken from the start? And sometimes it's broken from the start, and it's hard to tell that. You know, like whenever I'm teaching people or I have friends that are building, you know, the first instinct is, well, I don't know what I'm doing, so chances are I did it wrong, you know. It takes a while to really get the confidence to be like, I know I did this right, and your hardware's messed up. They were good about returning it, but I mean, I don't want to do that. I want to just get stuff that works. And Race Day Quad also is really involved in the community of FPV, which is important right now because the FAA is trying to change laws about air flight, radio waves, and all that kind of stuff. You may have heard about that. It's impacting more than just the FPV community, but it's really just trampling us. You know, and it's kind of like they don't even recognize it, and they probably don't. I mean, it's not a huge hobby, so. But Race Day Quads is really in there. I mean, in the courtrooms, paying for lawyers and stuff like that. So I'm happy to give them my cash. So like I said, these things don't really come with manuals most of the time. I mean, this has got like a. This is the VTX. It's got a thing, but I mean, this is nothing. This is the box that came with it. It's just got. Has a capacitor, and that's pretty much it. So let's see if we can find a manual on the product page. That is usually where they go. Wiring diagram. Okay. So that's good. That helps me. Sort of. I'm actually thinking that it doesn't help me too much because it doesn't say. Oh, yes it does. I should have known. You just pull the sticker off of this too. The quality control sticker is cool, but it also makes me wonder, like, did you just buy the sticker and stick it on there, or did you actually quality control it? Who knows? Oh dang. There's not an arrow on it. It does say on here, though, it says that this is forward. So, scratch my praise about their considerate wiring, because it looks like forward and forward. Actually, I could turn this upside down, because that doesn't matter. I want to be clear, you're hearing me talk things through. Like, I've built these several times for myself and for my friends. Probably got more than 10 builds in altogether, but I don't know everything, and I still have to figure it out. And that's what makes it fun, is sort of working towards that. You know, like, figuring it out is still, for me, a huge part of the good times that come along with it. So now what I'm trying to decide is, do I want to put this in what is forward for both of these items, or do I want to just put it in the way that makes most sense in the build, and then change it in the system. So it takes some playing around. I will likely fast forward through all of this because this seems like if I were you, it would be heckin' boring to watch me just fiddle with nothing. Let's go ahead and put the spacers on. Sometimes it helps to visualize if you are actually seeing it. I guess that's not visualizing, that's seeing. So it also came with these like taller standoffs, which is great. These little packs they're starting to make are amazing. I mean, in the beginning I was like 3D printing little circles, or I had these motherboard standoffs, like variable size motherboard standoffs that I was drilling out to use as spacers, and just having a little silicone piece I can just put on there really brightens my day completely. Okay, so this is forward. So if we put it like this, how much space does that give us? That's pretty good space. Alright, this is what I'm going to do. I'm just going to put it on like this because it gives us enough room. Alright, might have just lied to you. These are a little tall. I have some standoffs that are shorter. They're basically the same size. Let's try it though. They're the same size, but they've got like a little cutout in them, which in theory would make them a little more malleable in that, you know, with their squishness, their squish factor might be a little bit higher. So we'll see. What's happening now, like what I'm debating on, is that there's quite a gap between these two pieces. I don't really like that. I like everything to be as condensed as possible, and just so I'm clear what I was talking about with the flight controller and orientation per hardware versus per software, or the GUI, is that this is really how I want the stack wiring to go, if you can see that. The way it runs through the middle here, underneath, loops around. I mean, it's a perfect link for it. You'd think, well, why isn't it just made that way? And I don't have the answers for you on that. So yeah. I do have the answer on what we're going to do though, because I just figured it out. We're going to do it like this. We're going to put it on in what would be backwards, the flight controller, and then I'm just going to, in the GUI, is it GUI? I don't know. In Betaflight, I'm just going to start doing that. In Betaflight, I'm going to rotate the, oh, and I just saw that one of my screws is shorter than the other. Fantastic. In Betaflight, I am going to turn around the flight controller 180 degrees and then set it. You're basically recalibrating everything, like the gyro and the accelerometer and everything, to just pretend like it's turned sideways, that's fine. It's really not that hard. You don't even have to go into like command line or anything. You just put it in there. What I mean by that is it's got like a built-in like 180 button. These all look the same length. Did I mess that up? Okay. Yeah, I think I just didn't have it pushed through all the way. Whatever. But alright, so now that we've got our orientation worked out, what we are going to do is, bag rip, dang it, I'm just going to put them in here. What we're going to do with that is, and I'll take it off, but take it off, I mean the flight controller off with the harness, like this. We're going to put it off to the side and not lose it, probably. And then we're going to attach these motor wires. I like to do this in this order because I like to make sure that I have an appropriate length for the wires. So what we're going to do is take some clippers. This is actually wire strippers. I'm going to take these and I'm going to cut them off sort of at where I've got a little bit of wire left. Reason being is that's still kind of a little short, but I didn't want to shortchange myself on here. This is more important. This is just a bonus plus. I want this to, or I want to be able to keep this so that in case I need one of these connectors in the future, I can just clip these wires off, tin them, solder them up, and now I have a connector option. I'm going to take a break from this and go see what's going on. My phone is... Okay. Cool. Back. Super excited about it. Can't wait. Think I'm going to change where this camera is. I brought a hat and a clip. Now I don't know if that's going to help anything. I just feel like I'm just going to be like this, all up in the way of this camera. I don't know. I've seen people do this on YouTube and they make it look like it's no sweat, and I don't know if that's they have another person, or maybe there's a technique that I am unfamiliar with. But I do have this hat clip, so let's try and use it. Oh wow, it's a little heavy. Let's tighten the hat up here. It's really windy today. It's like blowing the... that kind of helps. Look at yourself. Yeah, that kind of helps a little bit. Do I look ridiculous? Okay, let's try it out. So we got these 3 wires clipped. I'm also going to put so we got the 3 wires clipped. I'm going to put this in the helping hands. Again, that's what this thing is here. At least, I mean, maybe it has a proper name. I don't. If it does, I don't know what it is. But put it in the helping hands, and then try to get these. Well, we're going to get these wires tinned up, and then we're going to try to get them like bent up in a really nice way. Actually, we're going to bend them first. That way I don't have to double tin them if I got to cut them shorter. I'm thinking around like this. Wrap them around and then touch them right there in those 3 little pads. That's going to mean... I always have to give myself a little bit of extra wiggle room. Be a kuaz. If you don't, you end up like really finding yourself in a bad spot. In that you cut the wire too short and you need like 1/4 of a millimeter's extra space, and you just don't. There's no way to get that, you know. You can solder the wire longer, but then you might as well just cut it like half as short so that your split's in the middle. But whatever. So I think I got the spacing pretty good. So what I did was lined it up like I showed, and then these wires, the nice silicone ones, which really is what you should be using. Not that you have a choice in it most of the time. What I should say is it's what manufacturers should be using. What that silicone wire does, basically it's much more heat resistant in that you don't risk burning the wire. Some of the cheaper plastic wires, you can actually burn them out and burn the casing around them, and then that's just really annoying. You also want to make sure when you're doing stuff like this that you're cutting it away from the board. By away from the board, I mean like not over top of it, so any little pieces or little solder splatters or whatever you're doing doesn't fall down on the board and jump something in here. Alright, this doesn't seem to continue the stream, and I don't know why. That seems pretty good. So I'm going to take my iron, which is auto turned off, which is another thing I love about this. Oh, I think I can turn on image stabilization, which I am going to do for you. Yeah, I can. Cool. So turn stabilization on. Hopefully that's helpful. I don't know. This is an old GoPro, so the the tech's not super good. I'm using the fan. This is one of those things that I always forget to use. Super helpful. It's been a while making it, testing it, all that kind of stuff, and then I just forget to use it. But it's fine. It doesn't get all the vapors. A lot of times I just move out of the way. It's all good. Some people, I'm sure, just breathe it and they're fine too. But I take my health seriously. Okay, so the plan is we're gonna hook these down and around and up. Grab my hemostats and just touch them on one at a time. I'm actually probably just gonna bend them on, or bend them through here one at a time too, just to keep things nice and easy and clean. And I found that the best way to handle this stuff is just to take your time. I'm one to really get into the mindset of go, 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 go. Let's make it happen faster, 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 faster. Ow, that's like stabbing me. And then I just end up making it harder on myself for nothing, Just take your time, do it right, don't rush. Okay, this wire is still a little too long, and those clips are not going to work for that, so I'm going to grab another set of clips. And even though it's already been tinned and soldered, do not fear cutting it shorter. You only need a little bitty tiny piece of the wire to make contact for it to do what you need it to do. For it to solder on there. So, and I'm also going to put a little more tin on this because I tinned it upside down. Nothing wrong with that, just what I chose to do. But the result of it is that maybe the whole pad didn't get tinned. Touch a couple more of those too. Golly, they're so small. So the solder flows where the heat goes. The solder flows where the heat is. Flows to the heat. I don't know. Whatever's the right way to say that. But the solder kind of goes where the heat sits. So it can kind of help you direct the flow. So these pads are so small. You just gotta touch them. I say that as it's not working. Alright, what's happening here? Anybody got any advice? The problem is that there's not enough solder on this wire here. And now I think there is. So we'll get it in here. Melt this down again. Again, the hardest part about these in general is how small they are, and then once you get into these itty bitty little micro drones, as they call them, it just gets stupid difficult to see what's going on.
and to manage the wires. So let's see how that is. That wire's still a little long. Can you see what I mean? In that we got all this coming out. I don't like that. So we're going to take this off. And we're actually going to run this wire maybe this way. And then do this way. Kind of straighten it out and touch it. Now, something we might run into here is that not all of our wires might have sufficient length to do that. But that's okay. Another great thing, I may have just said this and forgotten. If I did, forgive me. But you don't have to worry about which wire goes to which pad. As long as they aren't jumped and all three motor wires go to the same ESC pad, you are good to go. And by that I mean you're not just good to go. You will need to go into Betaflight and reverse the motors, but that's no big deal. It's not actually Betaflight, it's called BL Heli. They have Sweet and BL Heli 32. The 32 is really just 32, like, I think kilohertz? 32 kilohertz. It's how frequently the motors refresh to the ESC, their position, and how all that telemetry data is handled, how quickly all of that goes through. 32 is good. You got to be a pretty dang good pilot and with a lot of time for it to really make any difference, I think. Maybe I just don't have the flight experience to tell. I mean, I like it. It definitely feels snappy. Does it matter to me that much? Like, and does it really feel snappy, or is it in my head? You know, I don't know. BL Heli S is fine. The cool thing about that, though, is that the pricing is basically the same now. You know, a year ago when that came out, it was like hot stuff, let me tell you. And then it immediately just gets like normalized into the world, and then, you know, anybody can have it, and the price goes down. Alright, I'm kind of struggling with some of these pads because they're so small, so I apologize about that. They make the tip of my soldering iron seem like a sledgehammer when it's pretty small already. It's not like a needle point, which wouldn't work well for regular quad building. It'd be a little too small because some of the pads you hit are pretty big, and you kind of need some heft to them, so you can't just have little puny boys. But this is definitely one of the parts where I am going to fast forward through so that you all do not have to watch this. So that all looks good to me. I'm just going to use regular pliers here. As much as I like to torque up those hemostats. Actually, I'm going to use hemostats. I just wish I had smaller hemostats. Again, like all of this stuff, the size is great for regular quad building. It's just a little too big for this stuff. For the micros. Starting to think I should be going better. Okay. 2 on, 2 more to go. So the section's not really great on that. Hit a better one up there, but I broke it somehow when we moved, and I just haven't really cared to fix it, quite honestly. Moving, having a baby during a pandemic is a lot, and fixing a fan, I'm not really a fan of. I kind of forget that one's there. I'm going to be putting a zip tie around all of this anyways, so probably, I should say, I'm probably going to be putting now, and I do want to point out that these helping hands are not the greatest. I've had to repair them a dozen times with just gross solder and gross solderers, I should say, and just whatever else. But it's fine. I hope this camera's working out. Again, if it's not, I apologize. I'm sorry I'm saying sorry so much. I was eyeballing the camera feed on that one. It worked out okay. So this one's pretty close, but if we kind of smooth the wires, we get a little more room And realistically, I'll be putting a tiny little zip tie in there anyways, probably. Just to keep things as smooth as possible for myself. A lot of times with things like this, you start to kind of figure it out, you know, like sort of understand what exactly should happen and like what's the time frame per pad size and like all that kind of stuff. You start to sort of get that. One thing I would suggest is that if you see low camera battery, if you see this is like got stuff everywhere. I mean, it's not everywhere. Like my desk is messy altogether just from working on these projects and other people's projects and like not getting out here to clean up. I sort of just push out. But while you're working, you know, I would suggest to put a tool back, especially if you have things like this where it's like easily accessible. Just immediately put the tool back, even if you're gonna have to pick it right back up. Like if you have to get it again in 10 seconds, just pick it back up rather than sit on the table. It doesn't take any more really like effort, but you end up really reaping the rewards overall in that you don't start to make clutter, you don't lose things. That's one thing that happens to me a lot is I end up just like losing stuff that I shouldn't lose. It should be right here. I set it down, it's under something else, you know, that kind of stuff. So just a little bit of advice there for you. Something else. Don't assume that you can just cut all the wires for each motor to the same length. It's a pretty safe bet that you can cut all three of the wires on the same motor to the same length, but don't just like measure out one motor and be like, okay, yep, they're all going to work like that, because they so often do not all work like that. And it's just about like the way you route them, or you know, that kind of stuff, like the frame geometry. You know, this frame's pretty symmetrical, but they're not always like that. And sometimes it's not so obvious that they're not like that. Sometimes they're asymmetric by 5 mil on the front arms to the back arms for, you know, whatever reason. They stability, or you know, even just manufacturing cost, or just whatever. It could be anything. The point is, you don't want to, you know, be a victim of your own assumptions. Because I've done that. And also, it's fine to mess up. It is fine to fall victim to your own assumptions sometimes, as long as you recognize that next time maybe we don't.
And even if you do, I can't tell you how to live your life. Just live it, dog. Salty dog. Whatever.
whatever. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm just basically talking. I'm assuming you're never going to hear this because it's going to be in fast forward. Maybe you'll hear me be like, I don't know how much. Oh no. Okay, we're good. I don't know how much y'all stick to the YouTube. Subscribe to the tube. But Jimmy DeRista, he's one of my favorite guys. He's like a maker, as they call themselves, and other people call them, I guess. I don't know. He's a maker, but he has a lot of fast forward in his videos, which I think is pretty cool. So here we go. So yeah, got them all in there. It's not beautiful, the wires, and that's fine. The main thing is that they are out of the way of the prop. So here are the props that come with this. There's different kinds for different sizes, and even sometimes the sizes have different kinds. But the way this works is it's got a center pole, which everything rotates around, and then 2 screws that basically hold it to the motor. Some of the smaller ones just are like press fit. The 5-inch ones, or even 3-inch and larger, a lot of times they have a single nut that screws down, like an Indy car. But as long as it's out of the way of the wires, you can go real, specific with your wiring, like these. I braided them, and I just really wanted to go above. They were all nice and fit, but they will stretch a little bit, and like per crashing, and as you can see, there's a lot of grass and stuff in here. Per like crashing and stuff, excuse me, they'll get messed up. And they get dirty. This is the kind of thing, like, you can spend a lot of time making it pretty, but if you're going to fly it, you were going to mess it up. Like, look at that. Oh, that's... The motor had something in it. Which happens too, the motor's magnetic, so if you land in any dirt or anything that's got, like, pieces or even all this stuff, it can cause problems. But okay. We got it here. I'm going to go ahead and put... Actually, I'm going to go ahead and wire the battery terminals. This is off another one. I actually already built this one once with stuff that was broken, like I was talking about from Get FPV. So I sent that stuff back, and I'm returned it. And I got my money back and just ordered this from Race Day. And then that's when I made the decision to just Race Day forever. But, yeah, so this is the wiring harness I had already made for that. I'm just going to re-tin some of the wires, or the wires, so that they are fresh and ready and successful. This is an XT30 connector here. Smaller than what I would normally use. XT60 is what I normally use. It's used in everything, not everything, but lots of different stuff. It's a great DC current, a lot of surface area connection between these kind of things. XT30s, 90s, 60s, they're all the same shape, form factor. They're just varying sizes. Bigger ones can carry more current. So let's go ahead and hook this in here. We can see there's ground and battery. I can see that. You probably can't see that because I'm just sort of moving through. Cool. So I'm going to feed them up here because the battery on this particular quad is, I'm going to mount it on the bottom. Doesn't have to be that way. I'd say it's 50-50 for me whether I'm out on top or bottom. It's really just whatever is most convenient per the frame design. I have a lot of people go into the center of gravity and weight distribution, and if that's different, and all this other stuff, which is fine.
Maybe it matters. Probably does matter. I just don't really care. I think that's the main boil down point on a lot of these design choices, is that it doesn't make enough of a difference for me to care about it. So, yeah. This is a larger pad. The bigger pads can be tougher to get like full melt, full connection on. You know, I talked about how much I love this iron, and I do. Huge fan of the TS100. But it would not be a great iron for larger projects, like that have lots of larger pads. Just doesn't have the oomph. I flashed the firmware on it to say like my online handle. And to do some other stuff, ups the max temp and sort of like how the sleep settings work and stuff like that. But still, it just doesn't have the power. It's not made for that. It's made for this. And it's perfect for it. Okay, got the battery leads on there. Probably going to end up zip tying that to there. Zip ties are fantastic for this. Not super glue. Well, super glue is good too. But zip ties and hot glue are fantastic options. It's just really work great, and they're impermanent but strong. Cool. Alright, I'm going to stop here for now, go inside, hang out with my fam, come back later tonight or tomorrow or something, finish it.
Okay, we're back. Different day. Been Christmas and stuff, so, you know, been busy. But we're going to get back into it. I tried to get the camera set up a little bit better this time, without, like, having to check them all the time, so I can kind of focus on this. So let's get into it. Let me remember where we left off. Flight controller, ESC, motors, power wire. It's been a couple days actually. Okay, I think next we will wire the flight controller. So let's go ahead and get that set up. In our helping hands and see what we need to 10. Let's see, can we see any of this? Cam 5 volt. I'm looking right here. Cam 5 volt ground TX1. TX and RX are something we're going to see a lot on here. That's like the send and receive of a USB. These whole things are built off of like UARTs. That's how you would communicate with the receiver, and how to change channels on the VTX through software rather than having to like go and actually click the buttons. Some of them don't even have buttons on them. That's what it is. So RX is receive, TX is send. All USBs are made that way. I'm pretty sure. You have power, ground, RX, and TX, and so the flight controllers come with like a USB micro USB port on them, but really you could communicate with it from any of the ports. But I am getting a little paranoid that this camera is not looking where I want it to look, so I am gonna check on that here. Yeah. Pull up the GoPro. Confident that the forward-facing camera is capturing everything. I think we're probably going to use it a lot less anyways, but I'm just kind of paranoid about this one, but whether or not it's actually picking up what I want it to. So I am actually going to share that. or not share it, but control it from my phone so I can kind of see if it's working or not. Whatever. Okay. So here we are, getting ready to pin some stuff. Alright, yeah, it looks like it was doing pretty good. Yeah, but RxTX. So it looks like what we're going to be doing here is the signal wire here. I think that says 5 volt. I really can't see. Ground and then TX. The smart audio you can really kind of run both ways. Smart audio is what you use to control the VTX through software. So yeah, you can kind of run both ways through that one wire here. Control it with just one without like the RX. I mean, so we're going to do that, and then we're going to need another one for our transmitter. I use what's called Crossfire transmitters. It's like a different type of protocol. You can use anything from like Bluetooth for like really cheap drones, or Wi-Fi Direct for a lot of them. Even some of these like FPV ones use Wi-Fi Direct, but like on the 2.4 band. But I use Crossfire. It's a lower frequency, further traveling sort of protocol. So sorry if I'm talking a little slower. I'm a little tired today after all the festivities, so I might be stumbling more than usual, if that's possible, over my words. Yeah, there's a TX, RX, and power over here. So we'll use those for receiver. Let's just go ahead and get to tinning. It's my little solder pin. Printed that out. I like it quite a lot. Beats having to use this thing over here quite a lot. So, alright. Let's get into it. Alrighty. Ooh. Also a little twitchy. Got a little bit of the twitch. Help me to have something to hold on to here. Got some dirt on my tip here. So that's TX, RX. I think we're going to be using 5 volt instead of the 3 that's here. Come on now. Let's try this way. Give me a little more room to the pad. Yeah. So that's the ground, and then this is the 5 volt. I think this is TX2. That's how they're split up in Betaflight, is like TX1, TX2, UART1, UART2 rather, I should say. So we got those. I think that's going to be our receiver. Our camera we're going to run here. Alright, I don't know if we're really going to do smart audio. A lot of times I just like changing the VTX frequency physically. I would probably like it a lot more if I flew with more people. But I don't really have, I got a couple friends that are in the hobby, but I don't really go to many events, especially right now, being, circumstances of the world and all that. So I generally just keep it at the same frequency. We all have our preferred ones, me and my buddies. And if we fly together, we stick on ours, and it's not a problem. I'm going to give it a little more. There we go. Cool. So I think that's going to be it for tinning those. These look pretty good. Some of them are a little dull. For those of you who aren't familiar with soldering, what you really want is like really shiny, nice, pretty bubbles. When they start to get dull and gray, sort of like that, it's not the best. Got a little dirt in there. It's funny, I think that was actually right around the time I said got some dirt on my tip. Anyways, and of course, not that these are perfect by any means, but you want a nice, smooth bubble. You don't want anything like super jagged or anything like that. So, now that we've got that, this is going to be our transmitter. Like I said, I already wired this from a previous build and just took it off of that. I think I'm going to do the VTX attachment next, because this VTX, or video transmitter, is actually meant to go into meant to actually go into the stack. Oh no. This stuff is like liquid electrical tape. It's pretty cool when you put something on and then you just don't ever want it to move, but it really sucks if you ever want to, you know, have it not on there again. So, but I think we can use these. This is to control the VTX with like a remote thing like this, or maybe provide power. I don't know. I won't be using that. Probably will cut it if I can't just tuck it in there. We'll see. I do want to check out how the stack is looking with everything sort of together. I'm not going to put the clip in like that. I don't really like putting them in and out a bunch. These are super, I mean, they're like fractions of a penny's cost, and the more you click and unclick them, the less grip and power they really have. And this is an interesting VTX. It's a little different than what I'm used to. Normally I would use one that just like, I don't have any out here anymore, that just kind of sticks. I actually use double-sided tape up here to just stick them to it a lot of the time, or even hot glue them, hot snot as some people call it. But this one actually goes in the stack. It's got 3 little things, so I'm interested to try this out. I don't really understand why there's only 3 holes, and I would get it if there was like a cutout for the 4th post, but there's not. Wow, that's interesting. And I want it like this because this will display my power, frequency, and band. VTX has like generally 8 different channels you can be on in each band. They have varying amounts of bands, and then there you have like a power rating. Let's see what happens if I just take out this. Just do a 3-post. We might just do the whole thing 3-post if this works out, or put like a shorter one in. I don't know. Oh, yeah, let's do it this way. Okay, that's not bad. I think I can swing that. I'm going to put little spacers in here. In fact, let's go ahead and do that. If I can find them real quick. Yeah, here they are. 2, 3. Cut down on weight, I guess. Those are a little long. Maybe. Perfect. I think with some squish, be able to make that work. Squish being like just pushing this board on there pretty good. Yeah, sweet. I'll probably squish it way down and tighten it on. They don't have to be... See, I don't really like just having... Sorry. I don't really like just having like the open space all the way up. I dropped a thingy. I do a lot of thingy dropping. Oh man, and everything's so small. Okay, yeah. Probably just grab another one. I think what I'll do, I'm not going to do it right now because we're just going to move forward, but I think I will grab a smaller, shorter screw and do that 3rd one there. The 3rd post, just because I don't want it like floating in the air. If this was like a indoor, I wouldn't worry about it, but I'm sort of building this to be indoor sized, outdoor powered, which could lead to some issues if it were, you know, to crash real heavy, which I should say when it crashes real heavy. I'm going to bring this down just a smidgen. Alright. We're going to do the transmitter first. I lied. Let me turn this off. Okay. I don't remember which of the nano is RX and TX, but there are two different nanos. There's like a V1 and a V2, and unfortunately well, not unfortunately, but one of the choices they did was to reverse the wiring in it, and I don't remember if it's just like complete reversal or yeah, if it's like complete reversal or if they just switch the power and all that. I don't remember. Okay, we'll figure it out. I'm gonna go ahead and wire it up as is. Kind of wish I could take this off, but that's not really feasible. Just gonna wire it up as is and then come in later and adjust things if I need to. And actually, let's go ahead and re-tin these. Just get some fresh solder on there. There's probably significant dirt, grass, you know, piece of grass and stuff just hanging out that we don't want interfering with our stuff. I don't know why I can't just like be okay with it, like trust that it's pointing in the right direction. Camera off. Oh, there we go. Okay. Probably can't trust it because stuff like that keeps happening. Let's put this over here so I don't lose it. Oh yeah, these need more tin. For sure. For sure, for sure. Spread them out, line them up. Preparation is the key to convenience. Alright. Go ahead and get some, actually. Yeah, your tip of your soldering iron will actually like start to corrode and rust and stuff just from the heat in the air. I don't know, it's pretty cold out here. I don't know if that makes too much of a difference, but you want everything as shiny and clear as possible. Let's get that one a little better. There we go. Okay. Okay. And then we put this in here. Use my hemostats to solder this up. Go. Now, let me make sure. Yeah. Just wanted to make sure. There's 5 volt and 3 volt here. Some of the protocols, or even I think the different types of receiver within the same protocol will use different voltages. In the beginning, the early days, all kinds of things needed like very specific voltage and all that kind of stuff. But now, most of everything can run off battery voltage. The receivers are kind of the last thing, especially these little nanos, because they are just so small, you know. And some people fly different cell count batteries, like 6S or whatever, and you know, you're looking at like 22, 23 volts, which is just enough to blow something like this up. So on that one, I had to cut over the board because the wires are short. I just didn't have room to move it, but I kind of blocked it off with my finger. You see how little wire is exposed there? I don't know if y'all can see that, but it's a super small amount. Something that I watch people do and then I did myself was assume that you needed more wire for more connection, and I'm assuming somewhere along the lines that probably plays true, but in this instance, just a little bit does it. Cool. So that is our receiver wired up here. We got TX, RX, ground, and 5 volt. That's what this needs. With Crossfire, this is actually channel 1 and channel 2, or channel 2 and channel 1. I never did figure that out when I looked it up, but it's fine. I'll sort it out in Betaflight. You can swap the channels through command line and stuff like that. So even if I did it wrong, I'll just fix it in there. These are like channel 3, 4, 5, and 6, or something of that nature. These receivers can control, I should say, much more than just drones or quadcopters. They can control wings or little robots or tanks or the dinosaurs in Jurassic World. Anything. Cool, so it looks good. Those wires look good. Everything looks good there. So next up, let's get our VTX controlled here, or set up. So I'm talking about with losing stuff. I mean, I just had it. What did I do with it? I didn't put it back in the pack. Oh, here it is. Sitting in a pile of other junk. So, here's where some planning comes into play. So, I want this to sit. What was it? Get these back in their homes before I lose them. Same with this. I want this to sit this way. I think is what we determined. I want this to sit this way. That means the VTX wires, and it doesn't really matter which way this sits, as long as this, because this is going to come, this is the antenna, this is going to come out right here, out the back, this way. So I think that's going to be fine. I think what I'm going to do is mount it like this, and then clip these wires and run them under here. That way, in case I need to service it, I can pick up, flip it over, hit those wires. And there's a gap between the two boards. Probably going to leave a little more space than this. Probably about like that. Wires tend to shrink on you, and I think I mentioned before that wires shrink. I don't know if they actually shrink or not, but they definitely... You definitely think you cut it the right length, and then you're like, oh my god, why are these so short? Like, what is going on? Okay, and so these wires are... Let's see, we got 4 here. So I'm going to untwist them. I will retwist them because I like them that way, and I'm pretty sure that cuts down on like electrical noise into the system. Something about EMFs or something, the way that it spirals. I don't really know that much about it. So we've got camera off. So we've got power, which I think this is just battery voltage, but I'm just going to run off 5 volt, should be fine. Ground, this will be the signal, and this is smart audio. I don't know that for sure, but that's generally kind of the way it goes. Obviously, power and ground, I can be almost entirely certain that that's accurate. But I do want to check that yellow is signal. So here we are. this is a piece of paper that came with it. This is actually came with some pretty useful stuff, which is great. Here's a frequency table. Betaflight used to have all this built in to control it wirelessly, but now Betaflight changed because the laws are changing and you have to do it manually, basically relieving Betaflight of any responsibility and putting all that liability on the pilot or the builder or whatever. I guess the pilot, whoever's controlling it's the one with the issues. Yep, video, ground, 5 volt, smart audio. Oh wait, no, okay. 5 volt cam, so that's going to mean 5 volt out. So then these are really going to be power and ground for the VTX, which I want to be about the same length, which is kind of just how long this is. I'm not going to try to salvage this connector like I mentioned before. It's just so I have a bunch of them, and cutting it short could bite me, so I'm going to get rid of that. But I do want to get rid of these wires. I think I'm going to bend them back and then just cut them as short as I can inside of there. And then I will probably put a dab of liquid tape on that. Rather than try to like tear it off and clean off the cuts and everything, I'll probably put a dab of liquid tape on there, which I have right here, and be done with that. So let's go ahead and tin these. You can just peel this right off with your fingernails if you've got substantial ones, you know, or any fingernails really. I mean, it's not hard. Split those out, nice and easy. Put them in the clips. Turn on our iron. Another big reason I love this TS100 is because it heats up so fast. Some irons just take forever. I'm just going to kind of scoot out the way on this one. Okie doke. Let's pick this up. Probably gonna need it in a second. Here I am, not putting tools back, like I said. Now I'm gonna twist these. Hopefully that doesn't make them too short. I don't think it will, but I guess there's always that possibility. And I'm just gonna leave this on here. Actually going to set up my helping hands to be like a little weight on it, just to hold it down. But rather than like take it off and everything, I mean. Okay, so we're going to grab our smart audio first. Which is over here. And then we're going to grab our ground. Wait a minute, wait a minute, wait a minute, hold on. I think I am messing this up. This says cam. I think that's going to mean the camera. Let me check on that. Ooh, glad I caught that. I think that's... Yeah, cam, VTX. Would make sense. Would make sense. Thankfully, it's all on the same side, so I don't think my placement or solder decision, placement or like wiring decision or any of that is going to be a problem. Yeah. Okay. So we're just going to tin the rest of these. Oop. See how that one was like, I don't know if you could see it, but it was like jutting off in one direction. Bad news. Bad news solder. Okay. Now we're going to come back in here and do this. I can't see the markings on the flight controller. I'm just going to have to go with what it says here, which is also very, very blurry. TX1, that was still right. So I had the smart audio option. It's called smart audio. It's not, doesn't have anything to do with audio. I think in the beginning it used to travel over the audio, like make beeps and boops over the audio channel that the flight controller would then listen for. I'm almost positive it doesn't do that anymore. Okay, there we go. So TX is right. Dang it. Wish I could see. VTX. 1, 2, 3 is ground. 4 is TX, is that right? Okay. So then we'll grab this ground. Grab the 5 volt. And then we're going to get the teensy tweezers. Teensy tweezies. Uh-oh. I almost always forget with the tweezers that I have to actually squeeze now. Okay. I think that's good. Those are on there, giving the old tug test. These on there, the old tug test. Another twist. And just sort of test fit real quick. I'm going to have to change which post I took out. But that's fine. Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and do that. So that looks good. I'm actually going to be testing it, like hooking it up, programming it, make sure the motors spin in the right directions, changing all that, making sure everything's good before I put it all together. Because inevitably you're going to have to change something, and I'd much rather not have to take it all apart. Sometimes I get overexcited and then just do it anyways, and then it's just a big bummer. So, going to go like that. Cool, and that's sort of like what it'll look like. All this will be tucked in here, you'll have your props on, but that's sort of the boy. One more thing to wire, and then I'm going to take a break. My throat's hurting. I hadn't talked this much in a while. Okay. Da, 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 da. So this is going to be cam stuff, which is going to go right here. I'm going to give myself ample leeway on that, especially since it's only 3 wires and you can really just tuck it in there pretty good. Like coil it up. I'm going to give myself plenty of leeway to start and then sort of shorten it if I need to. I'm not concerned about the weight, but I don't know if longer runs introduce more noise. I don't remember if I explained this the other day because, like I said, it's been a couple days since I was messing with this, so apologize if I did. But what I mean by noise is just like lines showing up in the camera. The camera looks like it's wobbling when you hit power or something like that. Or extreme things can be like if it's messing with the gyros, you can get oscillation that makes the copter like at certain speeds. By speeds I mean like throttle input and stuff like that. So you just want to avoid that as much as possible. It's kind of one of those things to where like I don't know if anybody watching are car people, but you know, you do an aftermarket exhaust and you get like 5 horsepower or something, and you're like, okay, well that was stupid. 5 horsepower, I can't even tell. But then by the time you do an aftermarket exhaust and cold air intake, if you believe in that sort of thing, and then a tune, and then, you know, lower your weight and everything. You just all the little things come together to make a big difference, I guess is what I'm rambling on trying to get at. So each little change you make in an attempt to reduce electrical noise or noise in general, better off you get. One little change might not do anything, but if you do 5 or 6 little things, you can really make a big dent in the problem. Okay, so getting the cam wire here. Oop. I'm going to touch this ground wire again just to make sure that we got it. Oop. That all looks good. Hope y'all can see that. That's sort of the top of our stack. Looking pretty good. Now that's everything wired up. I may be forgetting like something small, but or things may need to be rewired. But that's all the components here in a mangled mess of wires. We have our ESCs, 4-in-1, 1, 2, 3, 4 ESCs controlling 4 motors. We got our power lines coming in. This is our harness that is so wonderfully attached to this system. This is the flight controller. This is the top, I think, technically, but turning it over is fine. I think we talked about that last time. We have our receiver so that our radio can talk to it and control the quad. We have our VTX so that we can see what we're flying around with, and the camera also to see. Yeah. Some people fly line of sight quad, so you'd build the exact same thing without this VTX piece, and you would just fly like looking at it from the ground. I think technically that's what's legal right now, or there's some sort of weird thing about not flying in the goggles without a third person observing. But I like to fly FPV. That's my favorite thing. It kind of gives you that like in it, you know, like you're flying a fighter jet, like you're in there. It's like the world's best video game. But cool. Yeah, so that's done. I'm gonna take a break, and then I'll get my laptop and out of my flight bag, and we will hook it all up and see if it flies. All right. Okay, so we're back again in my dirty garage. So my puppy Bobby, come here. Come here, let's see a little camera. This is Bob. He's a very small, scared little boy. Just got that nervous personality all the time. So, back. Been a couple days. It's 2021 now, so just been busy. Normally, I mean, I could do something like this, especially if I wasn't filming, in 2 or 3 hours from pieces in the box to in the air, programmed in the air. But with filming and just not really pushing it and wanting to spend time with the fam over the holidays, I'm just kind of spreading it out. So, don't know how long this video is going to be. Probably pretty dang long. I started editing like the first few pieces of footage the other day, and I think it's going to be long. I thought about fast forwarding through a bunch of it, but I'm pretty sure I'm just going to make it sort of like a ride along, hangout sort of thing to that you can just skip through. Might even do like timestamps so you can jump to the different pieces. But anyways, the game plan today is to plug it up to Betaflight first, check out how everything's running, what the programming looks like, get everything sort of configured, and then make any hardware changes that need to come along with that, and like optimize setup, and then put it together and fly, hopefully in a little bit if everything goes smooth. So let's get to it. I'm going to be capturing some, like doing some screen grab on my PC. I haven't done anything like that. I'm using a program called OBS, and I'm sure a lot of the streamer folks are very familiar with that, but it's my first time using it, so hopefully it goes well. But alright, let's get into it. So first things first, I'm going to take off the frame and the ESC and everything, and just set it aside for right now because we're not going to need it. And then I'm going to grab this jumble of wires and hook the flight controller up to the PC, and then we'll see where everything is at. Probably should have brought my radio out here. Definitely should have brought my radio out here. I'm going to go ahead and go grab that and be right back. I'm just going to leave this running and fast forward through it. And I'm back. So, got the radio. I need that because part of what we're going to be doing here in the programming is checking and making sure that the receiver is getting signal from the radio. The receiver being this little bit, the Crossfire. This is a Crossfire Nano. If you remember, the RX and TX of the UART that's on this flight controller, the Nano doesn't do like RX TX. It does channel 1, channel 2. I don't remember which one is which, or if they need to be switched. I don't remember how I did it or way it was supposed to be. I don't think we were able to find that in any sort of manuals or anything. So we're going to check that as well as checking the VTX, and then turning the flight controller around. I think it was just 180 in the setup. And then we'll do our OSD, our on-screen display for the camera. It'll show things like battery voltage, stuff like that. Let me know when to land. Some boards you can even do like accelerometers. Well, they all have accelerometers in them, but some you can do like G-force. You can do barometric pressure, which is pretty neat. So like if you were to program a return to home, like an RTH, being that if it ever was to fail safe, which is unlikely with this protocol and this type of copter, but if it were to ever fail safe, meaning losing connection or RSSI signal with the radio, it would hit to a certain altitude, head back to a particular GPS coordinates, and then drop back down. Like Mavics and stuff do that, and you can program to all kinds of stuff, but I probably won't do that because this is so small it'll likely never even get out of line of sight. So cool. So this is my radio. It's a QX7. I like it quite a lot. It's the first one I've ever got and the only one I've ever bought. Real cheap. I got it in a scratch and dent thing. Definitely less than $100. Printed some little parts to make it nicer. This little thing to protect my gimbals, being these things, and a little stand so that it like stands up like that, which is nice. Protect the antenna. This part also is a aftermarket piece. I had to actually break some stuff off the board. I had to pop some capacitors off the board. I obviously had to look that up. I wasn't familiar with that, but snap them off the board with some wire snips, jump the pins with a little strip of wire, and add another little board in to replace some of that same functionality so that this would work, which is the Crossfire. This does regular 2.4. The radio regularly does, which is good, and one of my quads still actually uses it. But anyways, let's get into it. So I'm going to go ahead and plug up and likely switch on over to the screen grab. Make sure that's still going. That's just a little signal letting me know that it's connected. So good signs here. You can see that the quadcopter is responding to movement. It shows the front of the copter. I've got it backwards to my perspective, but it shows the front of the copter, the back of the copter, and it's yawing and all that sort of thing, so that's good. The receiver is getting power, which is good. It's showing red on the receiver. If I turn on my radio, my transmitter, we should see that light turn green.
Throttle warning.
Boom, making connection. Because I had already bound this to my radio from the previous build that I did with this. So it's already bound. We're good to go. I'll turn the radio back off though. Another part with cheap radios and cheap components is they don't always work right. Cool, so we're going to shut that down and set it off to the side. Something about this when you're fiddling in this mess of wires is you really don't want the boards to touch each other because you can short them, which is not something I want. One thing I am seeing is that I'm not getting any power to the VTX. Now I don't know, some boards don't do power to peripherals like that through USB because it's a lot of power draw and it's just easier to use the battery. We'll test that later. First thing I want to do is check I want to swap the orientation. Configuration, so we'll go here into the configurations tab. We're already quad X. I like to run motor direction reversed. We haven't done that yet, but we will do that. D-Shot 600 is good. We want to look over here at the sensor alignment, and I want to yaw it 180 degrees. What this means is it's recalibrating the flight controller to recognize that default position is 180 degrees of the way it came out of the box. So we'll save and reboot. It should reconnect. So if now we look, it is showing reversed. So, wait. No, it's not. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. That's the back of the quad, front of the quad. Yep, showing reversed. Cool. It's a little tough. I got everything turned around. Okay, so we got our configuration. I want this. We're still using a serial-based receiver, but it's not S-Bus. I'm making it Crossfire. We're going to save and reboot that. Make sure that sticks. If it doesn't stick, that could be one indication that I have it wired wrong. Okay, well, it's stuck. So I want air mode to be on. I want telemetry to be on. Telemetry, air mode basically ups the PID loop. PID loop being like what gives the flight controller authority. So it's the different values in which you can yaw, pitch, and roll. We might get more into that later. It's really not that important if you're not going to build one. So, but air mode is good. It keeps things a little more stable in uncertain conditions. Telemetry needs to be on for Crossfire because it uses telemetry data to control itself. And servo tilt, don't need. Soft serial, we don't need that. Sonar, you can build that in to like do ground tracking, don't need that. LEDs I'm going to do later. Channel forwarding transponder, don't need that. I don't race really, and definitely not in events. So that would be a way that the race coordinator could, how they have like a little magic wand. Not obviously not a magic wand, but people call it a magic wand, where you can hold it over the quad and it will put it in pit mode, which pit mode means the VTX goes to 0, so you're not interfering with everybody else's stuff. All of this I'm just going to leave on, mainly because I don't use a beeper and it comes on, so turning it all off is pointless. So I do want to, yeah, if you don't save it, when you leave the tab, it will wipe what you've done. So let's save it. Power and batteries, not functioning right now, but you can calibrate like what is low voltage depending on the battery chemistry you're using, like lithium ion or lithium polymer or whatever. They all have different voltages that would be considered low or dangerous. Okay, receiver. So here's kind of the moment of truth for the receiver thing. If this works right, it's going to be a lot easier. If not, I'm going to have to bust out the soldering iron and do some hardware changes.
Whatever.
So we'll turn my radio on.
RSSI critical.
I'm going to make connection with the quad. Okay, and I'm going to move my sticks around. The sticks are moving. Cool. But if you'll notice, it's kind of freaking out. And that is because where it says AETR1234, it's basically just the mapping, like aileron, throttle, all this other stuff, rudder. Not words I use very often when I'm doing this, but what I need to do is change it so that this is right. Because what's happening now is like roll is assigned to my throttle stick. Yaw is right, so R needs to say the same. My roll, so E and A need to switch because my roll and my pitch are switched, and T and R. So it makes it pretty, not T and R, T and A, but it makes it pretty tough to kind of figure out mentally. So I think I'm just going to do that, save it, and I think I got it right. So no, my pitch and my roll are switched, but yaw and throttle is now right. So I need to swap A and E. There. A and E. Save. Save. It doesn't reboot on this one, but I think it's right. So pitch, that's roll, right? Pitch, yep. Yaw and throttle, and then arm. I don't have, normally I would use like a turtle mode. Turtle mode being what will flip the, like if your quad lands upside down, you can reverse prop direction and flip. I normally throw props that way and just, quite frankly, bust up my stuff, so I'm not going to do that. Okay, so arm, this mode section, this is where we're going to be assigning the switches that are on the radio to various things. You have arm, you know, automatic failsafe, turn OSD on and off, just all kinds of stuff. Flip over after crashes, that turtle mode I was just talking about. Pit mode is something you know that turns the VTX to 0 like I was just talking about. All this kind of stuff. So what we're going to do first though is arm. They make this super easy because you just click auto and then select whatever switch you want. All my quads work the same way as far as the switches go. Some of them have different features, but the bases are all the same. So turn off angle mode for right now because I don't use angle. So arm is disabled. Boom, armed. Disabled means it won't actually arm the quad when it's plugged up. Boom, so on, off, two-way switch is what I want. I like to keep it nice and tight over here and lots of space, just for whatever reason. If it were to do something weird and get on 1200, I don't want it to stay armed. I want it to disarm every time I want it to disarm. Now I am going to turn angle mode on, mainly because add range. Oh, nope. Mainly because if I were to be flying and lose video feed, I'm definitely going to lose video feed before I lose radio, or failsafe, as I was explaining. I want to be able to save the quad if I can, right, and not have to walk over and get it. I want to be able to return the quad to video range. And what normally happens when you lose it is you go too far away and something gets between you and the video antenna. Video's using 5.8. It's not nearly as powerful as a 900 megahertz-ish crossfire. As far as it'll go distance-wise and penetration-wise. So what'll happen is you're flying and you kind of dip below a tree that you can't see because you have your goggles on, and then your video cuts out. So what I want to be able to do is turn angle mode on. What angle mode does is uses the accelerometer to get flat. Now it won't hover in a single spot without like GPS, because it'll still be subject to wind and any sort of miscalculations in the gyro or the accelerometer that will make it drift one way or the other. So you can't just let it sit there and float and pull your goggles up and walk closer to it. But what you can do is turn angle mode and then punch out. And what I mean by that is slam the throttle and get yourself tons of altitude and know that you're relatively facing upright and going to go straight up. And what that'll do is braze you above whatever's going on and give you time to reposition your head. I use some directional antennas on my goggles, which we'll see later. And if you're flying and I've basically trying to point it towards where the quad's going, but as I'm flying, my head drifts and moves out of the way, and now the antenna's pointing down, and out of it, I can angle, punch, and then kind of move my head back up and just sort of gain awareness in my body again and try to reposition. This rarely happens at this point for me, knowing, having some experience and knowing where to go and where not to go, and seeing the signs of when it's going to cut out. It's pretty obvious, but if you're new, you might not notice that. But it's still good fail-safe for me to have in here. So I'm going to go ahead and program that in. We have angle here. Set it to auto. It is now looking for me to flip a switch, which I have not wired in. Forgot about that. So with all models, you have to go in and make a new. I'm actually going to unplug this just to avoid heat, excess heat creation. It's nice and cool out here, but you can burn things out. All of these components are designed to have like wind flow moving over them, and
telemetry lost.
Yes, and so that's because I unplugged it. And so if you don't have that, they will overheat sometimes. Sip, sip. Cool. So let's add in a new like toggle. So I'm gonna point here and guess that this is pretty much looking where we need to look. So this is closer look at my radio. Probably looks very dirty right now. Yeah, cool. So it's working. So this is a closer look at my radio. So we are on the quad section, like this model. Sorry, I'm distracting myself. Voltage is really low. Need to charge this. But so we're here. We're going to go into the menu. Oh, exit. We're going to go into the menu here and select ourselves. I don't know if you can see that. We have throttle, elevator, aileron, rudder, and then SF, which is just my arm switch. So I want to make one for the angle we were just talking about. So I'm going to grab this switch up here. It's got a bunch of switches. This is a two-way switch. One back here is just a momentary switch. These are all three-way switches, and you've got some knobs. Knob could be for trim, stuff like that. Anyways, I'm going to assign it to this switch up here. So I will select this. Oh, never mind. So input, I'm just going to make it B. You can name it, but I just don't care enough to do that. So we're going to make the source. It's kind of weird to doing all this. This switch right here, SD, that's top right. We're just going to back out. So this is our input. So we've created this as an input. The system is now looking for this input. So we will go on over to mixer, and now we will assign this input to a thing. So I'm going to call this B, right? And it's already finding it here, but I just want to make sure that that's all clear and in there. So source is B. There we go. Channel 6. Oh. So I 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 page. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 6 P. Awesome. So we're good. So now I'm going to put you back up here. Again, I know that doesn't really explain a whole lot because explaining is not a whole lot about what I'm doing here, really. I mean, I kind of am, but I'm basically not teaching you is what I'm trying to get at.
Telemetry recovered.
So we're going to plug back up, switch back over to the screen recording software, and we are going to come in here to modes, and now we should be able to assign this angle mode. If we say auto, we should be able to switch it over to what we just made. So I only want it to be in Acro mode. Acro mode is what I normally fly in. Acro mode is by default. Like if you don't set angle, you don't set horizon. Acro means that the quad stays wherever it was when it last received your input. So, which doesn't mean back to level, right? That would be angle mode is what they call it. So you would, no inputs, it would sit flat as it can get itself. And then when you push forward, it would move forward, and then when you let go of forward, it would go back to flat. Right? So that's how like a lot of commercial quads are and all the toys are and stuff like that. Acro mode means that if, say you're just hovering level, we'll just start level again, and you push the quad forward by this degree and let off on the forward stick, it will stay like this indefinitely until it hits something or you give it another input. And what that means is, a lot of times the quad is flying around, you're correcting, you're telling it where you want it to go and not holding it. So if you were to hold forward on acro mode, it would just continue to flip over and over and over itself, and that's how you do the acrobatics and stuff that you probably have seen or will see likely at the end of this video. So that's kind of a brief explanation. For me, it's like balancing a quad on top of a ball. So you push forward and the ball starts to roll, and you just kind of have to balance it on top, right? As far as acro mode goes, angle is much more user-friendly, but quite frankly boring. All right, but I do want it to go into acro mode anytime I pull this switch out of the default position. So it's a three-way switch, so in both of the orientations other than all the way towards me, or all the way away from me, default, it will be in angle mode. Cool. So we're going to save that, because that's looking nice and pretty. So our motors, we'll move into our motors tab. This is your gyro. What's this showing is your gyro here. If you move the quad around, the gyro obviously is detecting inputs and writing them to the screen. You can also see that if a motor's dirty or it's got some sort of issue and you give it throttle, you'll see some less than stellar perfect flat line like it should be having. You have to have the battery plugged in for that, so I'm not going to do that right now, but we will come back to it. OSD, also not going to make any changes to that at the moment. Ooh, looks like they already have the VTX set up for me. Fantastic. Love that. That was already came on the board. Some manufacturers do it, some don't, like I was mentioning way earlier in the video. It can be a legal concern, and a lot of these are not made in America, and if you're not in America, nobody cares, so and they put it in there anyways as far as like on the board. Betaflight won't, but as far as on the board. So we're going to go back to the ports. This is really the first tab. This is where you should look first, but it doesn't really matter. Once you're confident everything's set up right. This only has 2 UARTs on it. A lot of them have like 6 or 7, so it's a lot more confusing. This is set up properly as is, because I actually came in here before the video and was messing with it and was like, oh yeah, I'm supposed to be recording this. So serial RX, that's the crossfire. We know that works. We just tested it. Peripherals disabled, disabled, disabled. Telemetry output, we don't really need that for this, for crossfire. We just need it for the other way to control the quad. UART 1, that's what I have my smart audio into. That's what the VTX is connected to. So again, we're not getting power to that right now. We're going to troubleshoot that. Really what I wanted to know is, or what I wanted to do is get the board set up in the right orientation, make sure the receiver is working, and then we'll address the VTX. So I'm going to save and reboot just so that we're all here, and then I'm going to disconnect, and then I am going to stop the screen recording. Cool. So we're good to go. So I'm going to unplug this. Next up, we need to look at the VTX and see what's going on. So what that'll include
Telemetry lost.
Yes, I know. So this lady's voice, you can program it to anything, really. But like some of my other quads have, like if the battery gets below a certain voltage, it's got Scotty from Star Trek. You know, he's like, she can't take any more cotton. She's gonna blow up or whatever. I don't even remember what he says at this point. I did it so many years ago, but so you can make it say anything. You can put voice clips in there. That's just a default like lady voice package thing, and it'll read anything that you put in. And so you know, it'll let you know things like, hey, you've lost connection to the receiver, like that was just doing, or you're low on battery, or you've exceeded a certain altitude, or stuff like that. Pretty fun. I also on the first quad, that's when I figured out how to do it, so I was really playing a lot with that. But I've got just switches that don't do anything but say stuff. So rather than using a piece of telemetry to tell you, like, to warn you as the pilot who can't see that something's going on, I'll flip a switch. So like if I'm racing with somebody or flying with somebody, you know, it'll say like a little funny limerick or something, or like you suck, or eat my dust, or, you know, stuff like that, and just flip it while I'm flying, and they can hear it standing next to me, it comes out of the radio, which is pretty fun. So I'm going to stop this, go get a battery. We're going to do some multimeter testing before we hook a battery up. It's a little bit higher voltage, so don't want to bust anything. And then be right back. Okay, we are back, and we are on cat mode. Alright, so we're going to take this multimeter, super useful tool that I love a lot, and we're going to put it in continuity mode, meaning that if you create a short like this, if your leads are connected and you create a short, you get this noise. Lovely noise. Very enjoyable. Basically meaning that something's jumping. And we don't want that to happen. We know that's not happening on the receiver because everything was working. And things do not work if they're shorted. Now these are just little like ends on here. I love it because, so say you're using like a, like voltage converter or a battery management board like this is, you can just clip it on there and not have to like use a bunch of hands, so you could like do this and this. So this is going to beep because it's two negatives, but you know, and then you can make changes and stuff like that. It just makes it a lot easier. I'm going to put this back. But anyways, it's a little too big for these tiny pieces here, so we're going to take that off. And I'm actually going to test from underneath on the VTX, which shouldn't be jumping because these were done from the factory. But like, we're just going to check positive and negative here. So positive, I'm not even going to be able to get in there for that. So we're not. Now you will get a little cheap sometimes, like even if they're not jumped, because it is putting current through it, very, very teeny tiny little bit of current through it, but it's enough to charge the capacitor, so next time you touch, it will, or could, beep, indicating that just as the capacitors just do a quick discharge. This is positive and positive, two different positive terminals, so I want it to beep because it's two different pieces. This is, could I get maybe more accurate with the corners of this? Again, I've got my camera over here just to make sure I'm capturing what I want to capture. So here we're going to do negative and negative.
can't tell. I will say it did come with some other pins other than these gator clips, but I don't know where they are. I wish I did, because they're much easier to figure out. Actually, I guess I could use... I'm going to pull off a piece of this. Can y'all see this? I'm going to pull off a piece of this wire here and make like 2 little test leads. Should make it a little easier for me. So, grab this. I'm going to cut it here. Excuse me. I'm going to cut it here. Then I'm going to strip them. Just use my little fingies, little fingernails here. And what I'm going to do is clip these wires into the gator clamps. And then use the wires as so, like so. And then lay this up here, and then like so. And lay it up here. Now, you always want to test, at least I like to test, because, like, what if this didn't work for whatever reason? And then I click these, and I was like, no beep, no short, and then it was a short, but it didn't beep because it was just not connected right. So let's try this. I'm going to use these wires, and I'm going to touch that negative and that negative. We are getting a beep, which is good. Positive, negative, positive, negative. You know, nothing is jumping. I'm also checking like the signal wires and all those sorts of things, just to make sure that they're not involved too. You expect power lines, but you know, some solder might have got over or whatever, anything. So, nope. That beep just because I touched them together. Nope. And this should be because I did not fix that. Oh, cool. Not because they're still protected. So cool. Now I'm just going to put this wire up here. So we know there's no specific shorts at the moment, at least that we detected. We could have missed something, obviously. Also, you have to turn off the multimeter. Put it back up there with my other stuff. So we could have missed something, but I feel fairly confident to plug this battery in. This is a 4-cell, 1, 2, 3, 4, lithium polymer battery. It has an XT30 lead on it and balance lead. Power lead, balance lead. Balance means so when you can charge it, all the cells get to the same voltage. I also know that we need to swap out this post to be on this side. Go ahead and do that. And use one of these little donies. If I can get it out of here. This whole process has been a little weird for me. Normally I would be listening to music while doing this, but I don't know how the copyright stuff works fully, so I definitely don't want to get in a situation where my video's taken down. I'm not planning to monetize or anything like that, but still, I just don't want to mess with that. And then have to cut my own audio out and do all kinds of stuff. So I think that was the right configuration for the VTX. Should probably check first, but I'm just not going to. But I am going to put another post in. I think I had mentioned I didn't want to leave it no post. These are all screws that are probably going to be too long. These are sort of standoffs, more so. And then I got a bunch of like computer stuff. Let's try this. We're going to go ahead and run this wire. Like that. this way. Like that. And then we're going to take... Oh no, these screws are going to be too big. I forgot about that. I think these are all M2. M3 is... M3 is standard for drone stuff. M2 is, I guess, better suited for these little bobs. We may just have to go 3-post and just live with it, because I'm pretty sure M3 is the smallest I have in this one. Shaw. Okay. So really I could trim these down quite a lot. Who goes there? I'm gonna go. Make sure I get this right again. We are gonna go 3-post and just see what happens. It will almost certainly be completely fine. Oh, here we go. And I believe we settled on these little red Johnnies and a squish, if I remember correctly. This way. Yep, like this. And then use some screws. Ooh, will I have enough screws? I forget, you know, that this is M2, even though I just mentioned it. It's just so different than what I'm used to working with that you forget. So I'll come back in and tighten these up, but sort of just doing a test fit. Also am likely going to need to bust out the old iron again to make some adjustments. There's I want to put a cap in here on the main power lead. I guess I'm just going to mix and match because I don't have enough M2 stuff. A cap here on this power lead just to sort of smooth out some of the spikes that are inherent in this sort of thing. This sort of thing being like pulling lots of current. It's honestly not super imperative that this particular piece of the board is flat. Bust out some toolage here. Okay, so that's on, that's 3, and that is honestly in there real good. Might do that. I might come back and do that off camera just to make that nice and easy. But so we're really approaching what's gonna be done here as far as the appearance goes. So this way was forward, I think is what I decided. So it's gonna sit in there nice like that. It uses some standoffs. Hopefully I've got more of them, but standoffs like this, just going to pinch it in there with my fingers. and then it'll sit right like that. Cool, so let's plug a battery up to it and see what happens. Do a little clean up, everybody clean up. Oh yeah, here they are. These are those little ones. It's funny, I got them on that little piece of magnet, even though they are plastic. Yeah, so this is where I was talking about wanting to put the cap, was right here. And it is here. I will be cutting it down, but I'll likely put it like that maybe, or maybe I'll put it right here. We'll see. Center of gravity is not hugely important in the quad stuff. You don't want it to be way off, but it can compensate pretty good, and something like a half-gram cap's not going to make that much of a difference. Okay, moment of truth. We might hear some popping, we might get some smoke. I try not to just fully seat, I just sort of touch and see what happens. Hopefully we'll hear a nice little tune, something like that, and everything will light up. Hell yeah! Okay, you see it says A1, it says A8-1, so that's band band A, channel 8, 1 power. The 1 power is probably 25 watts. Everything seems to be working. I do want to see if the camera's working. I'm assuming it is, but I'm not going to test that right now. But it is good that we're only getting one. It's coming default on the lowest power setting, the VTX, so that's nice. We're going to go ahead and plug it up and do some motor stuff. Motor stuff being assign the direction, which motor's what, that kind of stuff. So let me start this recording again. Okay, probably in view, not really going to check at the moment. Okay, so let's go to the Motors tab. We are recording, right? Yeah. Go to the Motors tab. So here we are. I understand the risk, basically saying don't plug it in without or with the props on. And then I'm going to spin this just barely. And what we want to see, you can hear it, is these motors just barely. They're just sort of twitching as you were to go. If you were to go up, they'd all ramp up. But now what I'm going to do is check direction. Actually, first thing I'm going to do is check motor assignment. So if this is front, that's front. Motor 1. So back right is motor 1. It is spinning. Let me hook you back up so that you can see. I need to just put this somewhere where I can always reference it. Okay, so this is forward. Back right, motor 1. That's just what motor that is. Oh, did you hear it go? And, oh, was it spinning in the right direction? Since I run motors reversed, the prop should always spin in towards the edges rather than in towards the front and back. So this is backwards. So motor 1 needs to be reversed, which I will do in BL Heli. You can kind of hold on to it. Motor 2 needs to be reversed, but it's the right motor. Number 3, and you won't hurt the, like you can see I'm grabbing it, like you won't hurt the motor doing this. Motor 3 spinning the right way. It's kind of hard to tell. I'm just sort of feeling it with my finger. Sounds good though. Nice and smooth. Oh gosh. Let's drop you down. Let's drop you way down there, buddy. Whee. Looks like it's going the right way. Yep. So motor 1 and motor 2 need to be reversed. Cool. Good. Just going to leave that the way that is. Sweet. Motors are working. Next step is going to be reversing them in BL Heli. So I'm going to open up, or I'm going to grab this. Record my main screen, I hope. No. Record my main screen, cool. And then open up BL Heli. So we're going to connect here. Should connect through to BL Heli, which it is. We're going to read setup, which is basically reading through the flight controller, like a soft serial port on the flight controller, what the ESC is saying. So they're all set to normal, which I think we talked about in the beginning. It's those 3 wires. So if you get them, one of them swapped with the other, it'll spin the opposite direction. So rather than, rewiring it, I'm just going to come in here and set them to be reversed. They make it nice and super easy. I'm going to write this setup. It also has like firmware flashing on here, but I see it's 16.7, which is pretty new. I don't know if it's the newest, but I'm not going to flash it right now because I don't think I need it. So then we wrote setup, now we're going to read setup to make sure it's stuck. So it should come back, reverse, reverse, normal, normal. Sweet. So now we're going to disconnect. I'm just going to leave the recording on the main screen, connect back to Betaflight, and then we didn't check this. Let's make sure. Hell yeah, got that right. Checking the orientation of the flight controller was still correct, which it is. So now we're going to turn the master on, let it twitch towards the edge, towards the edge, towards the edge, towards the edge, or the middle. Perfect. So these are all right. Good. Good, 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 good. So I'm going to disconnect this, and I'm going to leave the screen recording going. Connect back to my GoPro. And now we're going to build a little bit more. So I'm going to disconnect that, disconnect this. I'm going to get this all turned around and set up. I'm going to put the antenna through here. I want it to go this way. And then, actually, ooh, the camera's a little warm. The camera doesn't often generate heat, so that's a little unusual. I honestly didn't check the cam, but this is the same cam off the other build that I had where the board and everything went bad, so I'm going to assume that it's working. I'm getting a little excited. I need to manage that, otherwise I'm going to have a real bad time. Manage that as in don't get so pumped. So I'm going to use these metal screws for the bottom of these standoffs. I think it came with plastic. Sorry, like I said, getting excited, forgetting to orient the camera properly. But yeah, no matter how many of these I do, it's always so much fun seeing it all come together and all the time and stuff. I spent a lot of time learning this, man. YouTube videos and just piecing stuff together over the years, trial and error, money and broken hardware and stuff like that. It's just, it was a lot, like, it was a whole lot to sift through. But it's definitely worth it. I think. So yeah, but it's just so satisfying to finish building them. So let's go ahead and get this on here. I'm just going to put 2 of these screws in. Because the likelihood that I will need to come in here and make some adjustments is still real high. And whether it's really truthfully that high or not, or I just anticipate that to make it easier on myself, set the expectation that it will so that I don't have to stress as much. Anyways, cool. Here we go, here we go. Putting the screws in. Sort of getting them seated in these with the TPU top pieces. They're pretty squishy, so you kind of get them seated real nice. Come back in and touch these bottoms. I'm just going to do the 2 for right now, just so it'll like hold what's going on. Uh-oh, I think I hear a friend coming. I'm going to stop the recording real quick. I think there's something I need to attend to, but yeah, let me stop it and I will come back and handle this. Oh gosh, sorry. So this is the next day. Had to leave. There was like a vacuum fiasco that happened with a explosion and dust going everywhere. Super gross. And then we had some unexpected visitors again, which seems crazy. I definitely have had more unexpected visitors through this global pandemic than I've had the entirety of the rest of my time living on my own. So, anyways, I came back out last night to film some. It was kind of dark. I was reviewing the footage, and it was cold, so I was not here long, and it just wasn't that great. And I didn't really make any progress, so figured I'd just wait and start over today. So here's where we are. If we look down here, I've got some posts on. Got the 4 posts on. I'm going to put this cap in. This cap right here. And button it up, and we should be ready for the first flight. So let me take this post off so it doesn't get in the way of my iron. Die. Already losing stuff? Oh, here we are. Okay. So let me take this off. Dun, 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 dun. So I don't remember if I've mentioned this or not, but the reason to put the capacitor on here is because it will smooth out any like big spikes or anything like that from the battery. You know, this thing is going to pull a lot of current. This little Johnny, as they say, not so bad, but some of the bigger ones, I mean, will just pull huge amounts, like 100 amps, which seems bananas, but it will happen. And it just helps smooth out the spikes, you know, does what a capacitor does. Really can help with the video feed and making that stay stable. And it can help with the gyro to keep the oscillations down and stuff like that. It's another way of keeping electrical noise out of the whole system, like I talked about before. So I'm going to go ahead and take these back props off just to give myself more space to work. I think I mentioned before, but these are the most annoying rendition of props ever. Okay. And I also wanted to kind of look at this cam stuff. So, adjust my camera a little bit. So I noticed it was hot. The camera poles were hot, and I don't see anything like I don't see anything out of the ordinary here. As far as the wiring goes, I mean, it all looks robust and attached. And I don't see any shorts. I know y'all couldn't really see that, but I just couldn't get close enough with it. So we're just going to go ahead and move forward with this bit and come back to it. Okay. So I got the black one on a little bit last night, and that's pretty much all I did. It was just too cold. I did not want to be out here. I have a little heater, but even with that, I mean, it was just dummy cold. Alright, we're going to grab the hemostat, and then we are going to squeeze that down. Now, I'm going to grab a little bit of just like top and solder here, just to give me a little room to work. Not a little room to work, but a little bit of extra surface area to get heat into this pad. I want to melt it down enough so that we're sticking good, but I don't want to melt it down so much. I don't want to melt it down so much that I mess up the whole connection and all that sort of stuff. I keep losing feed on my phone, so I'm like nervous that I'm not catching what I want. But so let's check that out. Ooh, bad. Let's try that again. I'm actually not going to use. Yeah, I am. Let's try that again. See if we can really get some good melt on into this pad. It's one of those things where the iron's just not really all that strong, so it can take a while. But I think we got it. Let's get it better. This the firmware I flashed on here, it's got like a turbo mode, which is pretty cool. Can be real helpful just to boost your power in situations like this. I'm also going to retouch this black one, or this red one. I don't think y'all are being able to see this, but sort of running into a you see it or I see it sort of thing, and at the moment it's kind of needs to be me seeing it, you know? Know what I'm saying? Okay, so we're gonna put this standoff back in. And I do see here on these wires the shielding sort of came through a little bit, but I don't anticipate that being much of an issue really, so I'm not going to worry about it. Those wires are solid that come off the capacitor. They're not even really wires, I guess they're leads. I don't know what you'd call them, but the other wires are like solid strand little things like you'd see on like a thermostat or something like that, but very small. But they are not going to wiggle, wobble, or move or go anywhere. They're going to just sit right there. And so I'm not worried about those jumping or anything. Or shorting. I keep saying jumping, but I mean shorting, you know, it's basically like the same thing. Well, I mean it in the same way, I should say. Okay, hooking that up, antenna through here, line the body up, and let's get the top of these on. Screw them down, just gonna kind of get them started all around. Not that even torque is really all that important through something like this, but I think it has its value. Pass this one through here. Especially because I don't know if you're seeing, but these can be so floppy. The TPU top can be so floppy and squishy that you kind of need to get everything lined up, or it'll torque out of the way and keep tension on your canopy, which you don't want. I'm not too worried about scratching this lens. They're very tough, and I'm going to be banging it against stuff. You can like polish the lens if you need to, with just like glass polish or lens polish. I'm sure any of that stuff will work, but it's pretty rare, I mean, that you would need to do something like that. Because the video, as you'll see here in a minute, it's really not that great as far as the feed goes. So if your quality's not up to par, you're not really missing out on anything. Making sure these are all nice and tight. Not too tight though. This is steel going into plastic. Or these little bolts are probably aluminum, actually. Maybe they're steel, I'm not really sure. I need super glue, and I don't remember what I did with it. I'm not going to worry too much about it right now, but it is something that I will need. I'm going to grab one of these zip ties and go ahead and zip tie this capacitor on. I'm not worried about any of the other stuff that I said I was going to zip tie at the moment. Like the motor wires and things, they are going to be just fine for a quick maiden flight. I'm just going to get this cap on there so it doesn't cause me issues later on, because they will just, you know, come off or smash or whatever. I want it to just be a little bit tighter. There we go. Nice and solid. And then of course we clip it off, make it look good. Boop. Cool. And if that comes loose, no big deal. Not gonna be the end of the world. So we are on. Sweet. We are ready for... Actually, let's test the video. I was going to say we're ready for the Maiden, but let's run a little multimeter test again just to be extra safe. And then... black. Red. Not that it matters at all in this particular orientation. Cool. Let's check the video. So what we're going to use to check the video are my goggles. These are my Fat Sharks. I don't remember if I showed them off before, but they got, it's kind of like a VR headset. They got two little lenses in here that are adjustable for your IDP. I, of course, have done a lot of work to them just to make them look different, fancy, and give them some new functionality, because I love fiddling with stuff. Can't just leave good enough alone. This is actually a receiver. This has two bays. One's under here for a head tracker that I don't really use, but it is in there. And then this is the receiver, video receiver bay. But so we will plug it up and set that over there. if you can see in there. We'll try it. Oh, there we go. Cool. So it's just static right now because nothing's transmitting in the area. Oh, actually, I need to go get a battery. Be right back. Hey, come on, start up. Let's this. Let's make that easier. Kitty. Okay, so I got a battery. Also got a battery to run a different set of goggles that I have. They break down into like a display. Gonna unplug that. I'm not gonna use it at the moment. They break down into like a display system like this. Thought it would be easier to show the video feed. But so let's hold on to it and plug it up. I'm still gonna just do my little tap and touch. Anytime you make changes, I think anytime you make changes to the flight controller, or sorry, anytime you make any like solder changes or anything like that, you want to make sure that you don't get any sparks. Okay, everything sounds good, smells good. So it's broadcasting. So let's turn on our headset. It was dead, that's why I got this little battery thing. Turn our headset. We are on A1. We can see the top left. Well, I don't know if you can see, but I can see it. Let's go ahead and move over to A8. Sweet. This is where we're broadcasting from. Things look good. I didn't change the OSD. Hey. Man, so much fun. So the video looks real solid right now. We'll see once the motors start to spin up and some current runs through here. That's a flattering view, huh? We'll see once the motor spin up, current runs through here, if we get any wobbles and stuff like that. What I would do to change that, go ahead and turn this off. What I would do to change that is get wire in a common ground. So I would want to the VTX and the camera to share a ground pad. They'd have their own power in, but they would share a ground pad. What that would do for me is sort of smooth out any of that noise I was talking about. So I'm going to actually unplug that because I don't want that heating up. So I'm also, while I put the props on, going to let my little hot snot gun warm up. I was going to use super glue for these. What's happening here is this. It's coming off. Not a big deal, but I don't want it to do that. So I'm going to put a little hot glue and just smush them on. Super glue would be fine, but I'm not sure where that is right now. It should be right there on my pegboard, but it is not. I don't know why I'm burping so much. I'm sure that's annoying, sorry. I'm estimating that this video is going to be like 2.5 to 3 hours long. I am well aware that that is insane and that likely no one's going to watch it. But I'm still going to make it because I'm having fun and I'm learning new skills about, you know, filming stuff and using multi-cameras, and you know, I knew stuff like that before, but this is a really great time to get some solid practice in on it, so why not? Why not? Why not? And I've got the time over the holidays, like Magnus and Cage are in there napping on the couch. They're not doing nothing, just relaxing and all that, so I think I may have just stripped that screw. Oh, no. I don't think so. Yeah, this is just not the way to do it. I don't know why we're doing it this way with these props. And I've said that a bunch, but I just don't know what's going on. So, let's do a quick little test hover. Oh, so excited. By test hover, I mean just like a real quick. And actually, before we do that, I'm going to grab another zip tie, and I am going to zip this power lead to the frame. I'm going to zip this power lead to the frame because if the battery slings, which they can do in like a crash, or even if there's just lots of G's going on, the battery can sling. This doesn't have like a built-in pad. Some of the frames will come with like a little rubber pad. What I'll end up doing is printing one out of TPU, like rubbery stuff that the canopy's made out of. I'll end up printing one and putting that down there as like a really robust pad. Or I may actually have one up here on my pegboard somewhere. But I don't want it to pull the power wire out in the process, like off the board, or even, I've done this before, it has pulled the board apart, which sucked. Majorly sucked. So, and it doesn't have to be real tight. You don't want it to pinch the wire down too much. You just want it to hang on. Do 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 do. Cool. So we're gonna do like this. This is so fiddly. Eventually, I'll figure out like a real smooth way to get this battery on, and it'll be real nice and like one fluid motion. Until then, I'm just gonna kind of look like a look silly trying to get all this stuff attached to it. Why is this thing so short? I may need to get a longer strap. We shall see. Oh yeah, that is not holding there, big guy. What's going on? What have I done? What is going on here? I thought I had this strapped in before. Is it the power lead that's messing with me? What do we got going on here? It's like it's been pulled off. Alright, well, it's always something. Always something. I have more straps, but I don't know if I have any more straps that are a size that would fit in here. I don't particularly like that it's doing that. Not that this will help at all, but yeah, that's that strap is not gonna strap it in there. What else can I use? I may just have to get more straps. But we gotta fly it now. Let's see. Let's do this hot glue thing. Let's do this first, and then we'll assess. This is super quick and dirty, but sometimes quick and dirty is, in fact, the best. Or maybe I should say what the situation calls for. because it is going to be beat up and busted around and all those sorts of things, and I would much rather a little bit of hot glue break off than it to, you know, rip out the antenna or whatever else. Well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go look for a better strap. I think I'll probably have one in the bag. I'm going to put it on, and then I'm going to start the cameras out just when it's ready to fly. Okay, so I'm just going to fly line of sight right now because I am wearing my glasses and I can't use my goggles with my glasses on. I need my contacts. So I'm just going to fly line of sight right now, just using the head cam as the flight. Got my radio, got the thing, got the battery attached with a different strap. So let's go ahead and arm it. Yep, we're spinning. Let's test. Got some left and right, forward and back. Turned angle on. See how it kind of leans over and it's not keeping itself stable? Turn angle on and it will hold itself reasonably flat. Alright, so let's take off. Ooh. Ooh. We're flying pretty good. I don't have my rates built in, like degrees of rotation per throttle input, but should be able to manage. Flying pretty good. I didn't build this to be like super power, but definitely have enough oomph. Let's try some aerobatics. A little roll, a little flip. Okay. Sweet. It is working. Another roll. It's so tiny, it's hard to tell orientation. Cool. So I don't fly line of sight a whole lot, so I'm not going to do this a bunch. And this is the only charged battery I have. I'm going to put my goggles in. But it's got some oomph to it. Another punch out. There we go. We're getting some oscillations. Need to do some PID tuning. But we're looking good. Do another roll. Yeah, these are stock rates and they don't have any expo on them, so they're pretty quick, but they're not, they're quick in the middle and slow on the ends, if that makes sense. But it's looking good. Let's, that's a success. Full on success. Woo! Alright, man. Welcome to the fleet, as they say. Alright. Well, that's awesome. So that's sort of the maiden flight. I want to get another full, charge this battery back up before it gets dark tonight. I will do a like a full flight so y'all can see. But yeah, I actually just got it strapped in with like a computer strap. I think this is working pretty good. I'm going to use this. It's also in conjunction with a like a little sticky pad, sort of one of those like always sticky sort of things.
Telemetry lost.
One of those. All right, cool. See y'all.
Okay, so went in, got everything. Actually, already did
Inactivity alarm.
did the maiden flight and filmed it, but I don't think I was recording. So I'm just going to do it again while it's offloading because I still have some light today, so I'm going to do that. Okay, so I wasn't able to change my rates on the PC because one of the standoffs is blocking the access port to the flight controller. But I'm going to see if I can do that in the OSD and get that right. I fiddled with it a little bit in the first one. I'm going to see if I can get it sort of dialed in a little bit more. And the PIDs are kind of off. We're getting some oscillations from mid-throttle and above. So I'm going to mess with the PIDs in the OSD as well. So I'm going to set you down here in kind of the way I try to make this work so y'all can see. These goggles and the ones that I'm about to point you at both have DVR. But this is just going to be easier for me to do this, I think, and I think it'll be just as good for you.
So right now I'm just turning the P up in the PID loop a little bit for all involved. I'm not going to make too big of changes. Earlier I made some pretty big ones and I didn't like it. It made it worse than it was. But I am going to come into these rates, double check those. They look all good to me. I think a big part of the issue that I'm having is the filters. I don't think I have my filters set up, which is something I'm not going to go into right now, maybe another video. But we're just going to fly a little bit so you can ride along and we can test it out. Alright, time to arm. Everything's good, let's take off. Oh yeah, we're flying pretty good. Yeah, we're getting some pretty heavy oscillation above mid throttle. It's this fluttery stuff. You can hear it and see it in the video. That's a pretty sunset. It can definitely be fixed, and I got some props on this switch too. But all in all, man, this thing is pretty good flying. I definitely think this is a huge success. Oh, losing some video there. I don't know if you were, but I was. Let me kind of turn around some here. Which way am I facing? There we go. There we go. It takes a while to get used to the different power of everything, and especially with a different size on the quad. It can be tough. See what I'm talking about? World's best video game? Woo! Hype! Let's bring her home. We got some low battery, don't want to juice it too hard. Bring her in. Woo-wee. Too fun. Too fun, too fun.
Video?
Be done in just a second.
Telemetry lost.
Cool. So that's the kind of the first flight, at least the first one I recorded. Went pretty good. It's a nice quad. Definitely enjoyed building it. I hope you enjoyed riding along and all that kind of stuff. I had a good time. I hope it was fun background and all that. If you want to get into it, my wife is dancing in the other room. If you want to get into it, just let me know. I am more than happy to help. I would love to teach you how to do it, and to have a little flying buddy and whatnot. So let me know. Again, I hope you enjoyed it. I'm not going to do any of the really PID fine tuning and getting rid of those oscillations in this video. I'm just going to call it on this. Maybe make another one. This video is going to probably be super long. So, all right, thanks a bunch. See you around.